Okay, we're going to be working with radicals for a little while. We're just breaking away from the simplifying, okay? And now we're going to start going into fractions and what's proper, what's not proper when you have radicals. And then we're going to expand on that, okay, where we're going to start having negatives, which will take us to imaginary numbers. When you can have negatives and when you can't inside the radicals. So not in this section, but it's coming up, so we want to make sure we've done the basics. Okay, 67 and 68, both of those objectives were rationalizing denominator, so I didn't write the objective numerator twice. Okay, so 1 over rad 2. So just like when we had exponents and exponents had negative numbers, if you have a negative number in the denominator, we say that that's not proper, or in the top is not proper. So we always move it down to the bottom to make the exponent positive, or move it up to the top to make it positive, okay? Really the only time you see negative exponents is with scientific notation. Okay, so this is similar. We cannot have radicals, whether it's square root, cube root, whatever it is, in the denominator. So we need to get rid of them. We need to change that. Okay, so the very first one, in order to rationalize this, and you guys actually, I know, probably don't remember this, but we had this, and we reviewed this in the geometry book, where we had to rationalize and get rid of the square root. Okay, so to do that, we multiplied the bottom, whatever the radical was, at the bottom, because if I go square root of 2 times square root of 2, that makes square root of what? 4. And what is the square root of 4? 2. So now I just got rid of it, right? But whatever you do on a fraction to the bottom, you also what? Okay, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so we're just going to rewrite this. Just leave the original so you know what the original looked like. Okay, so we're rationalizing the denominator, so that means whatever the radical is, I'm going to multiply on the bottom, but then that means I also need to multiply on the top. Some of these you'll be able to do in your head. We're going to write this out in the beginning just so we understand what we're doing. Okay, so numerators, this is multiplication, right? We just go across. Remember, whole numbers, I know this isn't one, but this times this is going to stay on the outside, right? We wouldn't put it on the inside. So if that was a 3, I wouldn't write rad 6, right? It'd be 3 rad 2. Okay, so just going straight across, the whole number stays on the outside, times rad 2. Okay, and then on the bottom, we would have rad 4, which we just said the square root of 4 is 2. So now just the only thing you need to remember is radical with radical. Okay, this is not a radical. You would cross that off because it's not the same thing. One of them is a whole number, the other one is a radical. Okay, so that's it. Now we don't have to write the 1 in the front because that's just like when we have x's. As long as there's a radical there, you don't have to write that 1 that's in front. Okay, moving on. Number 2. This one, the top one and the bottom one are the same thing. You're just going to see it written 2 different ways. So sometimes they put the radical over the whole thing and write it as the square root of 2/3, which also means separate. Okay, you would have square root of 2 over the square root of 3. So both of those mean the same thing. Okay, so similar to my last one, I cannot have the radical rad 3 on the bottom. So what am I going to multiply by? Rad 3. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you do it to. Okay, so rad 3 on the bottom, rad 3 on the top. Now this one's different than the last one because now we both have radicals, so you can combine those. So rad 2 times rad 3 is going to make rad 6, and we can't simplify that because it's 2 and 3. Okay, both of those are prime numbers. Okay, and then over on the bottom you have the square root of 9, which is what? 3. Do not divide 3 into 6. One is a radical, the other one's a whole number. Okay, so you wouldn't write rad 2. Okay, because they're different. Good so far? Hopefully. Okay, number 3. Okay, so rad 50 x to the 3rd, y to the 7th, over radical 2 xy to the. Okay, so long way, you can multiply the top and the bottom by rad 2 x y to the 8th, okay? These ones back here that we had before, rad 3 couldn't divide it into rad 2, okay? So shortcut to this one, rather than going rad 2 on the bottom, and the x and the y and the 8th, is if the bottom, because it's a radical with a radical, if the bottom can go into the top, simplify it that way, because then you're working with a smaller number, okay? So rad 50 divided by rad 2 would be rad 25, because it's on the top, right? Because I'm dividing it to the top. What is my x's? X squared. Remember, we subtract. So we always move the smaller one to the larger one, so that went up to the top. The y goes down, but it's still in a radical, because we haven't like broken pairs up or done anything like that. So this one comes down, so that means that this is down. Good? Okay, so this is a lot easier to work with rather than having this big chunk being multiplied on the top and bottom. Okay, so now the only thing I need to multiply is what? Rad y. Okay, because remember, we can't have radicals at the bottom. So rad y on the bottom, rad y on the top. Okay, 25 square root of 25 is what? 5. Okay, so I'm just simplifying these, taking these out, so y is going to come out. What about the x's? Can I simplify that? How many x's come out? Just one. Is the green left on the inside? No. Okay. And then the rad y, because this would be together, okay? There's not a pair of them, there's just one of them, so it has to stay on the inside. Okay, on the bottom we would have y to the second, so that means y would come out. Can I simplify that any further? Okay, so you don't have to write this, but if we actually multiply that out, it would look like this, right, over y to the second. So square root of 25 came out, negative 5. There was 2 of these. Remember, it takes 2 of something to take it out, so the x came out. I only had 1. This one had 2, so then 1 came out. And that was, we've been practicing that for a while. Good? Okay. One more thing I need you to write. And we're going to try one. And then you're going to try one and we'll be done. Oh, wait. We're going to skip to this. We'll come back to that. You don't have to write the red if you want, just the 1 over. Okay, even if I had this, okay, what do you think you do in order to get rid of it? What have we been doing? What? Rad A, just rad A. Because can we have radicals in the denominator? No, so we would multiply by what? Okay, rad A plus rad B. Okay, so the only problem with that is if we did that, don't write this. Okay, I'm going to write this. Don't write this. Is if I multiply, I'm not going to multiply it on top, just because we know 1 comes out. If I do that times that, that's going to give me what? So rad A times rad A would be rad A squared, which makes it what? 8. Okay. If I do this times this, what is that going to make it? Rad AB, right? Does that get rid of anything? Okay, if I do it again, it gives me rad AB. So we're still going to have radicals on the bottom, correct? Okay, we're not getting rid of radicals by doing that, because we're still going to have the radicals on the bottom. So in order to multiply this, so this part you're going to write, sorry. I don't have an eraser like I used to.
So wait, do you write rad B on that?
You don't have to. It wouldn't make a difference, because you would have B rad A. You would still have it if you distribute it that way. So regardless, okay? So what you're doing anytime we have these is you are going to multiply it. I do want to write this just next to where you have this, okay? You're going to multiply, oh my gosh, opposite. So you have rad A minus B, or rad B if it was a radical. So if your original was a minus, then you would multiply the exact same thing, but it would be a plus or plus. So, and the reason why you would do that is when you multiply that, remember when we had the plus there, we would have a rad AB and a rad AB, which gave us 2 rad AB. Well, this time when you do it, they cancel each other out, so that's what gets rid of it. Okay, so whenever you have this, because the other ones we just had singletons, right? So whenever you have this, you're going to multiply by the opposite. Okay, so we're going to try it. Still the same thing, you just have a different sign. And you just wrote that. Okay, number 4. So 2 plus rad x over rad x minus 3. Okay, so I'm multiplying the top and the bottom by 1. Good. Good so far? Okay, so 2 times rad x is going to give me 2 rad x. Okay, 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. Rad x times rad x is going to give me rad x squared, right? Which changes to x. Okay, because we're going to put that times that would give me x squared. Okay, and then that one times that one's going to give me 3 rad x. Okay, any like terms? Yes. Okay, so this one and this one are like terms. Okay, so that's going to give me 5 rad x. Okay, this one doesn't have another one, so we just leave it as x. That one doesn't have another one. Okay, so I got my numerator simplified, which that's kind of what we just took a test on. Okay, so now on the bottom, we do the same thing. So rad x times rad x is just going to be x. That times that's going to give me 3 rad x, right? But then this times this gives me negative 3 rad x, so what happens to those? Cancel each other out. That's why we did the positive thing. Okay. And then we've got a negative 3 times 3, which is negative. Okay, I have no more radicals on the bottom. Okay, so same thing, you're just remembering what we just took a test on. We didn't have fractions, we just had the parentheses distributing them, how we combine them, okay? All right, so you've got some tryouts. So write these 2 down, and then you have one with the fraction, one with the add and subtract. So there's going to be an A, B, and a C. Okay, everybody have those 2 written down so I can put the 3rd one up. You good? Okay. There's this. So 4 over 3 rad x minus 2 rad y. Okay, any questions on A? Good on A. Okay, what about B? Okay, C? Because if I need to do any of them, let me know. We're golden? Letter C? Okay. So multiplying, I'm just going to rewrite it. So I've got 3 rad x minus 2 rad y. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this, but switch the signs. So 3 rad x plus 2 rad y on the top of one. Okay, so 4 times 3 is going to give you 12x, okay, which is where that came from. This times this is going to give you 8y. That's where that came from. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9. X times x would be rad x squared, right? And when you have 2 of something, you bring 1 out. Okay, so that's where that came from. When I distribute this one to this one, and then this one to this one, every single time, as long as you write it to positive and negative, they're going to cancel each other out because they're the same number. Okay, and then a negative 2 times a positive 2 is going to be a negative 4. And then rad y times rad y would be rad y squared. Okay, and then 2 of the y's, so the y comes out. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So try it short, kind of like the notes were. Okay, I'd like to grade this because most of them are pretty quick before the end of class. Alex, you're down to 14 more days. So days like this and this next section is pretty short where you have some time in class besides out of class. You have time to be working on this. Just make sure you're chipping away at that.